So let's get off and running because we are late and it's my fault. Well, it's my fault. It's always my fault. Extreme Ownership, by the way, I'm going to give Jocko Willink a free plug. Amazing book. You learn from that book that it's always your fault. No matter what goes wrong, if you go back far enough, it's your fault if you don't get the results you want.
I've heard of that book.
Yeah, it's great. I cannot recommend it enough. So man, welcome to the show. I don't have a fancy intro or anything. I like my listeners to feel like they're just kind of walking up to a conversation and kind of dipping in. So I'm not going to do like a big, like, welcome. Today, my guest is blah, blah, blah. And also, I don't tell your story as well as you do. So, why don't we just hit the ground running and tell me who you are, what do you do, how do you serve your community?
Yeah, so my name's Micheal Storer, grew up in the Bay Area, grew up in the East Bay in Danville, went to college up in Chico.
Chico, all right.
Chico, yeah. I ran track there, did the decathlon at Chico, and then when I got done, I got a job in construction doing like heavy civil project management work, working on big transit type jobs in the Bay Area, throughout the Bay Area. While I was doing that, I also went to school to get my master's in structural engineering. My undergrad was in civil engineering and then honed in on structural engineering in the master's while I was working full time. Finished that up and worked in the construction industry for about 7 years at the same company that I got hired out of from college. And after that, I knew I always wanted to start my own company one day. Specifically doing engineering design work. My brother was at the time going to college to be an architect at Berkeley. And so the goal, lifelong goal was always to start our own company doing architecture and engineering. Mm-hmm. So I decided to quit my job in project management, construction management, and pursue and learn how, the large scale structural engineering side of things. So quit my job, got a job at a structural engineering firm in the city, designing mid-rise and high-rise buildings, where I worked there for 3 years. While I was working there for 3 years, I did some moonlighting of my own with my brother and two other business partners that he went to school with, where we did architecture and engineering on the side. So, before hours, after hours, on the weekends, that type of thing. Got a lot of experience. And then after about 3 years, it got to the point where it was no longer moonlighting or a part-time job. It was a full-time job. So I quit my job and in the last, 2 months now have been full-time on our architecture and engineering company.
And that's Xforma.
That's Xforma Designs. Yep.
It's a really cool name, by the way.
Yeah.
So when you were moonlighting as what would your title be?
Engineer.
Architect, engineer. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were moonlighting as an engineer on other projects, did the company you were working for, did they know about that? And how did they feel about that if they did?
No, I would say my direct boss knew about it, and there were lots of people in our firm that did it. They didn't know to the extent that I was doing it. And a lot of people either do it, but it's like a job here, a job there. Maybe they'll do, 3 to 10 jobs a year. And I was doing about, 3 to 10 jobs a month.
Oh, wow. Well, you're a go-getter then.
Yes.
I ask because historically, as I'm sure you've studied, America's most famous architect, which is Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yep.
He did that and they were not happy with him and they fired him for doing that. And he was like, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm going to go do me. And he definitely, that's why he's still around. It's not why he's still around, but one of the reasons, I asked the moonlighting question. Okay. So I am a neophyte. I am a pedestrian in the world of engineering. What is it that when you get your coffee and put your tie on and you clock in and you say hi to whoever the secretary is, what does your day look like? What do you do?
Yeah. So, to back up a little bit, my world, which is focused on more residential design, some commercial design, so a client comes to us and says, hey, Xforma, I would like to do a second story addition on my house. It's a single story house. I want to do a second story addition and add, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs. So they would come to us, and our architecture side, would go to them and, go take photos, measure up their house, walk them through what their goal is. And then they would draw up the floor plans of the house.
They draw the floor plans.
We do. We draw.
Oh, together. Oh, got it.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. We, through collaboration, figuring out what's important to them, how big they want the space, where they want the layout to be, what they're trying to accomplish, right? And then once that's done and the design is finalized, then those designs come to me, and I say, okay, you need this size beam or this size post, or you need shear walls to resist earthquakes and wind, and you need these hold downs, you need the foundation to be this size so that the building will stand up at the end of construction.
Well, it must be really important to know, like, if you were going to take your expertise to, say, somewhere that wasn't on a major fault line, or that had, like sedimentary stone underneath it, or, I mean, you really have to know the area, like physically the geology of the geography, right? I mean, I'm spitballing here, but I mean, that's got to be so important.
Yeah, so lots of the larger scale projects, we get a report from a soils engineer who's actually performed, soil testing of the ground, and tells me, what my design capacities are for the soil. So I take that information and I run my calculations to determine, okay, what size foundation we need, what size piers we need, diameters, depths, that kind of stuff.
What's a pier?
What
is a pier?
A pier would be like you drill a giant hole in the ground, fill it with concrete, and that's what's supporting your structure.
Got it. So it's like a kind of like a tensile rod that you put into the ground, like X feet deep, depending on the size of the structure.
Exactly. Yeah, it'll be like 18 inches in diameter by 10 feet deep, and you put rebar in there and you fill it with concrete, and that's what's supporting the structure. So the famous one is like the Millennial Tower is sinking, right?
Yep.
That's on piers, and the reason is because they didn't go to bedrock. The piers are just relying on static friction, the friction between the concrete and the soil. And it's
like, what, I mean, it's got to be. So it's two-part question. First part, how they get away with that, and second part isn't that area built on rubble from the 1908 earthquake?
It's actually built on bay mud, because that
even better,
be underwater. Yeah, and then they filled it with a bunch of just landfill and moved the soil and dirt there. It's really, really crappy soil, and the way that they got away from it is the numbers penciled out. And one of the things in their design that they were never anticipating was that a very large, deep structure next to it would be getting installed, which is now the Transbay Terminal and the Salesforce building. And so those are in such close proximity to the Millennial Tower that when they dug down the 80 feet or whatever, and they drained all the water, because when you dig down, you got to drain all the water, it lowered the water table, which then changed the dynamics between the Millennial Tower's piers and the static friction between the soil around the piers. And that's what caused it to sink.
So, and okay. Wow, what a fubar for, I mean, so, and isn't the Transbay Terminal kind of defunct now also? Like, isn't there something structurally that, I mean, just forgive my ignorance here, but so, let me paint a picture for those of you who don't live in the San Francisco Bay Area. We're talking about 3 monumentally large and expensive projects that are beautiful in construction, except for the top of the Salesforce Tower. I don't know why they did that, but I guess you have to have a helicopter pad up there. And I mean, so the Salesforce Tower is the largest high rise in San Francisco. The Transbay Terminal was going to be some bus station with a beautiful park on top, and then the Millennium Tower is a residential high rise that was completed in 2009, 8, 9, something like that.
Yeah.
Ish. And here we are, at the time of this, it's 13 years later, and it's just 15 years later, And it's just, I mean, they're not selling any condos, are they? I mean, nobody wants to move in there, right?
A lot of people were moving out, and there was a lot of like, high profile people in there. I know like Joe Montana had a place in there and that kind of thing. But yeah,
People that
so
can afford to kind of bounce and just like, oh, buy this. Nope, don't want it.
yeah, I
Buy.
mean most of
So
them I think are, yeah, they're second homes for
second,
them.
third home, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what a colossal just, and I'm trying, I do my best not to swear on the show. You can if you want to, but I find it's just there's a lack of vocabulary when we resort to that. But just what a colossal lack of foresight that, like, oh, in the prime urban area where we would want to build something, that we wouldn't foresee, the other large structures coming in. It's kind of like how gravity works around a like a singularity. Like you could see a gravity wave, like it pushes down heavier.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go a little Carl Sagan on you there. But wow, how interesting. And I mean, the lawsuits must be never ending with that, because I'm sure Millennium's blaming Salesforce, and it's just all back and forth, and the city's in there too.
Everyone got dragged into it. I know my previous employer in the construction world, we actually installed the foundation on the Salesforce, on the Transbay terminal. And so, my contacts there, they said that everyone got roped up into it. Every single contractor, subcontractor, everyone, owners, engineers, architects, everybody.
No, thank you. No, thank
Yeah.
you. All right. So you and your brother, you started ExForma, and I met your brother briefly. And he seemed like an awesome guy. When I was talking to the two of you, when we were talking face to face, I was like, yep, you're the architect, you're the engineer. Meant that as a compliment. At what point were you two kind of like, hey, we should do something. We should do our own project, our own company.
Yeah, I mean, we always kind of knew that that's where we were going to go. My dad owns a construction company in the Bay Area as well. So we grew up, working at his construction company in the field in the summers, working with all the guys, tool bags on. We grew up getting familiar with how to build construction. And my dad has always kind of purchased properties through the years that we would fix up and we'd rent out and hold on for a while, or we'd flip them or whatever. So we're really familiar with that side. And it's something that we've always been really passionate about, that construction, real estate, that kind of thing. And so I was always good at the numbers. So I chose the engineering side. My brother was always more, more artsy. And so he chose the architecture side. And so the goal was like, hey, we're going to one day either take over my dad's construction company or we're going to start our own thing. And I think as we kind of progressed through college and progressed through our work careers prior to ExForma, we realized like, no, we're going to start an architecture engineering company. And if we can have kind of a construction side through, my dad's company, where we can kind of partner up and one day kind of run both businesses, that would be the ultimate goal.
I don't see why not. I mean, that seems like you're completely vertically integrated. You get somebody working for the city and you're in, man. Your permits are boom, boom, done.
Yeah. So we've structured a couple of recent deals with clients where we do that. And so like my brother and I, we work out of the same office with my dad. So we're all under the same roof. When we go to meetings, we can speak, effectively to the side of architecture, engineering, and construction, because everyone wants to know, well, like, yeah, I want to do this and this, but how much is it going to cost, right? And we can give from the architecture engineering standpoint, and just with our background in construction, we can give a pretty good, thorough, estimate, but it's not going to be honed in. Whereas my dad brings the expertise where he can kind of really hone in that number. And a client, wants to know, hey, is this a $50,000 project or is this a $500,000 project, right? Or $1 million project?
Yeah.
So that's what we gain by partnering together and bringing on a contractor early through the design phase, is we can work with the client and let them know that we're going to meet, or come below their budget.
I got to say that it must be refreshing. It's probably why you guys are so good at what you do, speaking the whole family. Because it's got to be refreshing to, in my limited experience with working with contractors only on a residential side, it is an absolute nightmare to have one person, the bureaucracy, you get lost in bureaucracy. Like quick story. I had a branch go through the roof of one of my rental
You
homes.
showed me that
And I
photo.
was like, right. And I'm like, okay. And I'm out of state. And so I'm like, okay, everybody's safe. They're like, we're safe. It's an insurance thing. So the insurance sends an adjuster out. The arborist pulls the branch out. The roof guy patches the outside. The handyman, whatever journeyman does the inside, and hopefully there's no water. Actually, there has been more water damage. I was on the phone with the insurance company right before this meeting. But to come as a client, say me, come to Xforma and say, I have an idea, and you guys have all the gears of the machine that are in-house, relatively speaking. It's got to be just, I mean, it's got to put you above and beyond whatever the local competition looks like.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and we're trying to set ourselves apart, and this is why we structured it the way we did. We could have easily, the normal industry standard is you have an architecture company, you have an engineering company, you have a contractor, and then you have all the subs that go along with it, right? And for us, we saw inefficiencies in our architecture and engineering companies that we worked for prior to. We're like, this needs to be one. This needs to be
what kind of inefficiencies?
Inefficiencies. An example: client comes to the architect, hey, I want to do XYZ. Architect designs this beautiful structure. It's all done. They're ready to go. They got city approval, and then they go, okay, let's go talk to an engineer. They bring the drawings to an engineer, and engineer goes, hey, this won't work, right? You got to change this wall. You got to change this. Everything changes. Then the architect has to go back to the client, redo the design, potentially back to the city, and whereas what we do is we're designing in parallel, right? Like I'm having meetings with my brother or our other business partners who are working on the architectural design, and I'm sitting there and saying, hey guys, actually let's shift this 12 inches this way, because then this wall would line up with the upper level wall and we don't have to add a giant beam. Or hey, if we change this, it'd be a much more efficient design. Hey, I need a little bit more wall here for my shear wall to resist earthquakes, that kind of thing. And then when they're going back to the client, we know from an engineering and a constructability standpoint, it's going to work.
Yeah.
So we cut out a significant amount of time.
Yeah, and I mean, you save a lot of capital also from a client standpoint. The efficiency there is just ducks in a row, bang, bang, bang.
Exactly.
What's the wackiest thing that someone has asked you to design for them, like a fire pole or a slide inside, or?
We haven't got anything too wild yet, actually.
Okay. Well, the day is young. I'm sure it'll come.
It'll
some
for
eccentric
sure come.
person. It's like, I need a bathtub in the basement that has a siphon that runs the shower on top that's on the roof with a giant rubber duck. And you're
right,
like, what?
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, nothing too crazy yet.
Okay. So one of the things we were talking the other day that really kind of attracted my attention to what you do is that you mentioned you had another business that is commercial or residential real estate, or both?
Residential
real estate. No,
yeah,
that's a pretty hot market these days, it feels like, at least. And can you tell me, how did you fall into that, and how's it going? What kind of obstacle? We can break down those questions, but how'd you start in that?
Yeah, so I always knew that real estate was the path to financial freedom, right? I've seen it with my dad and my uncle, my dad's brother, that they bought a lot of property over the years. And them having their construction company, it was always really easy for them to buy a pretty de-stressed property, fix it up, and then rent it out or flip it or whatever. And over the years, they've done several of them. So I've always seen that. And I knew, okay, that's the way to go. Well, come at the start of the pandemic, 2019, I had been saving up to buy a house for 8 years, made really good money in my previous job, and realized I'm never going to get there. Not in California, not in the Bay Area, right? It's insane. It's absolutely crazy. And so, having been required to work from home, I had a lot more time on my hands. I no longer had to commute. I could kind of do my thing. And so I kind of went down this rabbit hole of financial freedom and real estate investing, stock investing, crypto investing, all this stuff. And I stumbled upon Bigger Pockets, which is an amazing podcast. They have a community of like, I think, 2 million members. They have a whole platform that's dedicated to teaching others about real estate. Very broad, but they teach on everything like residential, multifamily, commercial, flips, how to finance it, how to partner with other people. And I realized, I was like, oh, wait, there's a whole other market out there that I could invest in outside of the Bay Area that's in line with my budget or the money that I could come up with. And, oh, there's even strategies for, investing in real estate without any of your own money. This is fascinating. So
yeah, that is fascinating.
I started reading a shit ton of books about it, and several of them are from the creators of Bigger Pockets. And I realized, I was like, oh, this is actually very doable. And so with me, my brother, and our other 2 business partners that we own the architecture and engineering company with, we weren't paying ourselves while we're working a full-time job. So we took that money and we said, let's invest in real estate. So we ended up buying property in Akron, Ohio. And we, within a couple of months, we acquired, we purchased 3 properties. And we're looking at purchasing our 4th. And this just started. So, I mean, my rabbit hole started in 2019 or whenever the shutdown was of the pandemic, 2020, whatever. Reading books, podcasts, just consuming financial freedom, wealth books like crazy. And then after about a year, I felt comfortable that to kind of take a dive and say, okay, screw California and the Bay Area. Let me get my feet wet outside of California, where the home prices are much cheaper, the labor is much cheaper, but the rent is relatively really high. We have the technology to do it, Zoom calls and phones and internet and everything.
Thumbtack's very helpful.
It's been relatively easy for the most part.
Yeah. Can you drop a few titles on us? So, and I'll put them in the show notes because there's probably some people that are listening that are in a position where you were, and they could use some of your, guidance.
Yeah, I would say.
Is there anything that come to mind?
I would say the holy grail to just get you motivated would be Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh yeah, for sure,
100%,
yeah, for sure.
Right? But specifically real estate related. Investing with low and no money down from Bigger Pockets. Let's see, the Burr strategy.
I'm sorry, the title is called Investing with Low to No Money Down.
Yep.
Okay.
The next one is I think it's just called Burr, B and then 4 R's. And what that book is all about is so what it means. The acronym is see, I always have to write it out. It's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And the strategy is you're buying a distressed property, you are rehabbing it, you're getting it rented, and then you're going to the bank and refinancing it, and then you're repeating. And this process allows you to buy, essentially get all of your money back at the end of the day and still hold on to the property and collect rental income for no money.
Break that down to me, because we had a conversation, may have had a few drinks in there. It was also a very loud room. And that was one thing that really, really a flag went up for me. And I wanted to, now that it's daytime and I've only had, 4 bourbons in my coffee, but so just lay that out for me. Yeah. How does that work? What you just said.
I'll give you an example. Let's say and this is the strategy that we're implementing in Ohio. Let's say we buy a property for, and I'll keep the numbers kind of whole so they're easy to digest. But let's say I purchase a property for $30,000, which you can purchase a property for $30,000 in Akron, Ohio. And then let's say I put $30,000 into it. So I've spent out of pocket $60,000, $30,000 to buy the property, $30,000 to do the construction. So carpet, paint, you know, paint the, get
Is
it
it
all.
nothing structural in there, or does it kind of, it doesn't really matter? Because I
Nothing
mean, well,
structural.
for you it doesn't matter because you are a structural engineer,
Yeah.
but obviously you'd want to keep it as light as possible
All
for the
cosmetic.
rehab. All
Yep.
cosmetic. There we go.
Yep. And you're getting it essentially rent ready, right? And then you would then, get a renter in there, get it rented. And then you would go to the bank and say, hey, bank, I got this home. I own it cash outright. I would like to take out a loan on the house. And so what the bank calls it is a cash out refinance. And they're going to go, okay, well, let us do our due diligence and find out how much the property is worth. So they'll send an appraiser out to the property.
Got it.
And we've ran all our numbers prior to buying it, and we know, what we could buy it for, and we know what our rehab costs were roughly, right? An estimate. And so we knew that we were going to be net positive. So appraiser comes out and they say, hey, this property is worth $100,000. The bank comes back and goes, okay, we'll give you a loan on 70% of the appraised value. So right then and there, they're going to cut a check for $70,000 because they're paying 70% on the appraised value, $100,000. So $70,000 that comes back to us, and that has then paid for the cost of the home and the construction costs. And in addition to that, it put $10,000 in our pocket. So we made $10,000. We kept the house, and now we're renting it out for, $1,100 a month, let's say.
So no, go ahead, finish that thought.
And so we essentially acquired a property that cost us no money. The mortgage, your mortgage, your insurances, property management, and withholding, 5% for maintenance and 5% for vacancy rate. By the time you add up those expenses, the rent that we're getting pays for all of that, and then puts an additional, $300 to $500 in our pocket a month.
Yeah. So what about this? I mean, now you've got the bank that you have to worry about, because the bank technically owns 70% of that house, right?
Well, they have just given us a loan for the property. So it's just like any other loan. The difference is we went to them after it's already been fixed up, and they gave us a loan, after it's already been purchased and we own it outright.
And so, based on whatever your credit rating is and all that jazz, I mean, you're looking at like what kind of, so you basically you're kind of taking out a mortgage on a house that you already own.
Yep, exactly.
So, okay. So, and do you, I think I know the answer to this. I'm just going to ask it anyway. Do you care about how long it takes to pay that loan back, or not, because you have a renter who's paying that mortgage for you?
So we don't care. And the reason why is, we could have done, like, the numbers pan out that we could have done a shorter loan. We could have done a 20 or 15-year loan. And
you're taking a smaller percentage per month.
Yeah, smaller percentage, maybe breaking even. But the difference is we want that cash flow now so we can roll that into other deals, ideally, right? So we're even willing to pay, a higher percentage so we don't have to put points down or anything like that. So then that way it just gives us more capital that we can roll into other deals.
This comes back to monopoly. It's like you own the boardwalk now. You own, that's the only monopoly name I can think of right now, but you own it and you're capturing the property. And as long as the property value keeps going up, which I'm sure you've done, that's like day one research, then you're golden, and who cares, because other people are paying your bills.
Yeah. So and
that's a pyramid scheme. No, I'm kidding. That's business.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's all about compounding interest. Right. And so for us, pocketing $300 a month is not significant.
Right.
It's peanuts, really.
But you did that 10 or 12 times, and then you're talking.
Exactly. And it's one of those things where you can get in fairly easily. The costs are pretty low, but the rent is really high. So if a property is worth $100,000, but it's renting for $1,000 a month, that rent to price ratio is really high. So for instance, for that to make sense in California, where the average home is $1 million in the Bay Area, you would have to
Like
bring
10
in
grand a month.
10
Yeah.
grand a month for those numbers to be equal to what it is in other places, which that's not the case. An average, really nice $1 million home, which, lots of them aren't really that nice, right? For $1 million, you're going to rent out for, I don't know, 35, maybe four grand a month, maybe. Right.
Yeah.
So
That's about right. I'm sitting in a shed in my backyard right now,
yeah,
but that's pretty accurate.
so the numbers don't make sense. Now, okay, in a highly appreciative market like the Bay Area, it makes more sense to like do a flip where you can put a bunch of equity in it through fixing it up, and then you could, so for instance, let's say, on average, the cost of per square foot to remodel a home in the Bay Area is around $400 to $500. But if you're selling the home for $1,000 a square foot, well, then those numbers make a lot of sense. Your rental income doesn't make sense for a single family home like it does in the Midwest. But to buy a dilapidated building in the Bay Area, put in $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 into it, and then sell it for $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.3 million, that makes a lot more sense.
Right. So does this only work if you have another several pronged question here? Does this only work if you have a house that you own outright and then go to the bank, or can you borrow again? Like how? I mean, I'm going off the example that you provided. So that's my question. That's the first part of the question.
No. So actually, the easiest way, an even easier way, is if you live in the home. So you can buy a home that's not great, and you could do what's called an FHA loan, where you only have to put down 3.5%. So let's say you're in maybe a little bit higher market area, and you find like a really good example, and they teach you this in the Burr method and the other book, Buying a Home with Low to No Money Down, it's called a house hack. So house hack is a strategy where you buy a home, if you don't have the capital to put down 20%, you put down the 3.5% utilizing an FHA loan.
You buy a home that you are living in.
That you will live in. Yep.
Okay.
This could be a single family home. It could be a duplex. So it's two units. You live in one unit, you rent the other unit out. That's an even better strategy.
Yeah, that's gold right there.
And you'll go in with 3.5%, and then you start fixing it up. And lots of banks will give you what's called a construction loan, or basic construction loan. There's other lending methods and money acquiring methods through like hard money loans or private money loans, which are easy to find. Google will give them to you. Bigger Pockets has a website that can direct you to preferred lenders that have good reviews that people use on their platform. But essentially, you're borrowing money from the bank, and you're paying, I don't know, usually around 10% interest on it. You're taking that money, you're fixing it up.
That's a big percentage. That 10% is big.
It's big, but when you run the math on it, it ends up being not that much money, right? So let's say you're borrowing $100,000. Okay, so that's what, $10,000 in a year. But let's say your construction takes 3 months. You're talking about $3,000, spread across 3 months, and that just gave you $100,000 that you would have never taken you 10, 15 years to save up for.
I could see long term how the cost outweighs, the benefit outweighs the cost there, because you're upgrading something that's more permanent than what's, $3,000, $10,000 over a year is like $800 a month. $800 a month, something like that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. So it's a powerful way. Like, for instance, the wealthy, they don't use their own money, right? They borrow money. Even if they have the money,
that's still Kiyosaki 101 right there.
Exactly. They borrow the money, right? They leverage what they have and they roll it over into other things. They're borrowing against their homes, they're borrowing against their stocks, they're borrowing against their assets, and they're rolling it into other deals, especially now when rates are historically at their lowest they've been in a many years, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
home interest rates on a home loan used to be like 12%, right? And people are getting them in the threes.
Yeah, 3, 5, 4, something like that.
So essentially, like when you do the math on it, the money is very close to being virtually free to borrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so back to the house hack. You're living there. You put down 3.5%. So for instance, let's say you buy a home for, I don't know, 400K, right? So 3.5%, you got to come up with $14,000 to purchase that home, plus closing costs, right? You're probably close to 20 grand.
Yeah.
To get, that gives you a little extra money, right? So then let's say you got to put $50,000 into it. You're going to paint it. You're going to change the flooring. Maybe you'll do a new kitchen, or a new bathroom, right? New finishes, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting 50 grand into it. And at the end of it, okay, so you bought the place for 400,000, you put $50,000 into it. Let's call it 450, but let's say you do the exact same process. You go to the bank, you refinance out of it, because now it's after you made all of your improvements, you did your rehab. Let's say it's worth $550,000, right? They'll come back and they'll pay you 70% of $550,000. That's $385,000. Now remember, at the start of this, you only had $14,000 in equity that you owned in your home, right? Because you only put down $14,000
Mm-hmm.
out of whatever you bought it for, $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now they're going to cut you a check for $385,000, and now you never had to come up with 20% down, but you already have that money down through the loan process.
Now, where does the money come from? If you're scraping together 14K, we'll call it 20K with closing, where does the money come from to do your renovations, to do your facelifts and everything?
That would come from the bank, from a construction loan or a hard money loan, that type of thing.
And would you suggest same financial institution for all of this? Or do you think that they might get a little squirrely, kind of seeing what you're doing? Like, hey, you're over leveraging yourself, you're spreading yourself a little too thin. What are your thoughts on that?
The best way to do it is through a local credit union. They're going to be the most flexible. They're going to give you the best deals. They're going to be able to work with you. And lots of times they're going to have a really good construction loan that you can go through. That's usually better rates than like a hard money loan or a private loan. So I would recommend, if you were to do a house hack, you would find a local credit union. You would go through them. You would get an FHA loan, put your 3.5% down, get a construction loan from them, and implement this strategy.
That sounds like a pretty sound strategy. I mean, it's a little scary, but so is being an entrepreneur. But once you get your system down to stamp this, stamp that, and put your team together, I think it sounds like you've done your homework, and it sounds like it's working well. A couple more questions, and then I know you got a hard stop in just a few minutes. I want to be respectful of your time. How did you land on Akron, Ohio? How did you do your research and find, did you just kind of there?
Yeah. So I did a lot of research.
And what kind of parameters were you looking at?
I was looking at where could I buy the cheapest home possible with the highest amount of rent. And so I went to all the areas through listening to Bigger Pockets, and because I'm not the first person who's done this. There's been a ton of people that have done this strategy, and I just needed to wrap my head around it and understand it better so I could then go and do it myself. So I was looking in all the states that they mentioned. I wanted to be in a state that was landlord friendly instead of tenant friendly. So if there's any issues, right, you're much easier to evict them than you are in a tenant friendly state like California or New York or Washington, that kind of thing. So
yeah.
Wanted a landlord friendly state, and I wanted to find a place where I could buy a home for the cheapest amount of money possible and rent it out for the most amount of money possible. Okay. And before I felt comfortable with doing a BRRRR strategy where I'm buying a really really crappy home and then putting money into it, I needed to get comfortable with the process, with lenders and underwriting and, finding a realtor and finding a contractor and that kind of thing. So they have companies out there. They're called turnkey real estate investing companies, where basically they're doing all of that legwork in advance. Anywhere from single family to multifamily, all over the United States, in these areas that are home price is very low, the rental income is very high, and most of them are in landlord-friendly states. So I was researching about 5 of these different companies. I was talking to them, interviewing them, making sure they'd be a good fit for me. And they're geared towards people like me, someone who has capital in a very, very expensive state, doesn't have quite enough to deploy in the state they're living in. And so they want to spread it out in somewhere else. And that's exactly what they're geared for. That's where, 90% of their clients come from.
And this is called, I'm sorry, the feed split up a little bit there. So I got to ask again, turnkey real estate companies.
Yep. Turnkey, rental, turnkey.
Something, those keywords will probably come up.
Yeah. They're called a turnkey company. And they're providing you, the reason why it's called that is because the home is already renovated, it's already rented, they already have a property manager in place, it's ready to go. So literally it's turnkey. So it's, you're buying this property and it's ready to go for you.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. How do you find you're not on the phone with your renters saying, hey, make sure you pay by the 5th or it's late. Here's the utility setups. Like, where do you find and vet you got to have a management company that runs this for you. Yes.
Yep, exactly.
And how do you vet them? How do you find them? How does that system work?
I use the good old fashioned Yelp and Google and find as many property management companies as I can. And actually, this isn't specific to property management. It's how I do everything surrounding real estate. It could be contractor, it could be lenders, it could be real estate agents, it could be anyone. I literally call them up and I talk to them and I ask them a bunch of questions. And if they aren't giving me the information that I want, or I feel like they're not just giving me information at all, or I feel like they're difficult to get a hold of or communicate with, then I just move on to the next person until I find someone who's responsive, who's reliable, who seems to be honest, and then I start working with them and developing that relationship. And once we continue that relationship along, if they're working out, then I hold on to them, and if they're not working out, then I move on to the next person. Okay,
that's good to know. That's valuable information. I've got one more 3-part question here, and then I will let you go. It could be real estate related. This is more of a meta question. And I hate that Facebook took that name because it's kind of like Trump. It's like, oh, you trumped me. It's like, it doesn't have the same meaning.
Right.
But I will use the word meta because it's a cool name, a cool word. So the name of the show is The Philip Levy Show, discussing health, wealth, and life. And those are three, I just couldn't come up with a better name. We're just calling it the show for a while, but health, wealth, and life are three very powerful words, but they're kind of umbrella words and they mean different things to different people. So I want to ask you, Michael, before we jump off, what is health mean to you? What does wealth mean to you? And what is life? Like, how are you living your best life? And take your time to answer that. I can put some elevator music on.
Yeah. Wealth to me is important because wealth gives you freedom, right? Like, wealth isn't going to buy you things to make you happy. It's not going to give you your health. It's not going to give you a better quality of life, although it can give you better quality of life, but that is only going to last for so long. But what it does give you is it gives you freedom and peace of mind, right? It makes your life easier because you don't have to stress about wealth. And I think the important thing there is we all have the capability of building more wealth and making more money. We just got to utilize the talents that we have, right? And so I tapped into that through my experience and knowledge. I know I have other friends that tap into it in whatever industry that they're in, right? And it's all about figuring that out, figuring out what you're passionate about, and pursuing it. And we're in a unique age in time where we have this is kind of the only point in time where we've had this much information at our fingertips that's readily accessible, right? So like there's really no excuse because information is so readily available to us, right? And so if you have that perception of like, well, I'm this job and I'll always be this job and I can't make more money, it's false. There's so many ways to make money out there, and you have nowhere in the history of time has it been easier to find out how to do something more or learn something, because we have it all at our fingertips. So wealth is important because it gives you peace of mind and freedom. Health is extremely important because without health, you're going to live a miserable life potentially, right? And or not.
That's guaranteed. Without your health, you're going to live a miserable life.
Exactly. So I grew up playing sports, ran track in college. Health has always been really important to me. I'm a big foodie. I cook a lot. I love cooking. Grew up in an Italian family, so we thrive off of enjoying good meals and food and doing it with friends and family. And so with good health, you're just going to have a better quality of life, and you're going to feel so much better, right? So much better.
Yeah, I love it. So where can we find you? I've got exformadesign.com is your business website. Is there anything else on the social front or the professional front that you want to throw out there where people can pick your brain about these related topics?
Yeah, so we also have an Instagram page that you can find us, just Xforma Design. There's also, I have my Instagram, which is just Micheal Storer 1. Can
you spell that, please?
Yeah, so Micheal, Michael, and then my last name Storer, Storer, and then the number 1. And yeah, I mean, I love teaching people about real estate. I'm kind of a broken record when I get outside into, a social setting. Most people are talking about sports, not a big sports guy. I love talking about money, finance, real estate, stocks, crypto, Bitcoin, that kind of thing, right?
Man, I wish we had time to get into stocks and crypto. I want to have you on again and learn some things from you about that, because that's a brave new world and crazy frontier right now.
It's fascinating. I am so deep into it. It's insane.
Well, let's hop off for now. I know you've got to get to another meeting, but I want to thank you so much for your time. This has been very educational, and I really appreciate it. So
yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, Micheal, thanks again. Until next time, that's it. We're out. No fancy outro. That's all.
Awesome. Thanks, Phil. I'll talk to you later.